Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good day all, and you are welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this video, we are going to look at the concept of histology of bones and bone cells. Don't forget to subscribe and join my YouTube community for more videos. The introduction to bone histology. So bone histology is the study of microscopic structure of bone tissue. So when we are talking about the microscopic structure of bone tissue, is what we call a bone histology. And of course, from the word microscopic, it means that they are the structures of the bone that we cannot see them with our naked eyes except when you use microscope. So that is what happened in the case of bone histology. So it is trying to examine the bone tissues that we cannot be observed with our naked eyes except when you use microscope. And very importantly, this bone histology, it provides insight into organization and the functions of bones. So if you are able to understand the microscopic structure of the tissue in bone histology, you will be able to have a good understanding of how the bones organize as well as the function at the same time. So understanding bone histology is essential for comprehending the bone growth, repair, and diseases. So if you are able to understand the bone histology, ladies and gentlemen, you will be able to understand how bone growth, how it repair, and also how the diseases are how affected or affects the bones. So therefore, it is very important to understand the bone histology so that you will be able to understand how the bone outgrowth, how to repair the bone problem, as well as also how to treat and diagnose diseases that are associated with bone. So without wasting much of our time, of course, the bone is made of the cells and the matrix. And this matrix are made up of protein and minerals, and 25% of the matrix is made up of protein, while 50% are minerals, and of course, the 25% are other substances in the body. And then, of course, we have basically four types of bones. We have osteoprogenitor cells, we have osteoclasts, we have osteocytes, and we have osteoclasts. So we have osteoprogenitor cells. Osteoprogenitor cells are the cells that have the potential to produce other bone cells like osteoclasts and osteocytes. So this is actually what we call the bone histology. So we need to understand both the matrix and the cells that are found in the cell. And as we can see, this is osteogenic cells, which actually have the ability to develop into osteoblast, and then the osteoblast also have the ability to further differentiate into osteocytes. So you need to understand this. So the bone histology is made up of matrix and cells, and as we are doing the lecture, we are going to see the division of the bone at the same time. So now let's look at the composition of the bone. The bone tissue is composed of organic and inorganic components. And as we can see from the previous slide, I mentioned that, of course, the composition of bone is made up of a matrix and then a cell. And then, of course, this matrix of a bone is divided into two. We have organic matrix and we have inorganic matrix. The organic matrix is made up of collagen. It's made up of mucopolysaccharides and then non-collagenous proteins. So this is actually what makes up of organic matrix: collagen, mucopolysaccharide, and non-collagenous proteins. So it means that there are so many proteins. And of course, you can see from here, as I mentioned, the matrix, of course, is made up of proteins and the mineral salts. So of course, the mucopolysaccharide and others are the ones that covers this 25%, while the proteins, which actually include collagens and others, are made of the 25%. Of course, the minerals, which is, of course, the inorganic component of the matrix, as we can see from here. The inorganic component of the matrix are made up of calcium and phosphorus. So it means that the bones is made up of 50% of calcium and phosphorus. That is the minerals. And of course, the cellular component, we have different types or composition of bone cells, which include osteoprogenitor, osteocytes, osteoclasts, and osteoblasts. So we have osteoblasts and osteoclasts. These are the cells that are found in the bone tissue. And of course, as we can see, the inorganic matrix, apart from, of course, the calcium and phosphorus, we have hydroxyapatite crystals. So all these are the component of inorganic matrix of the bone. So I hope it is clear. So the bone is made up of matrix and cells, and then the matrix is further divided into organic and inorganic. The organic is made up of collagen, mucopolysaccharide, and non-collagenous proteins. Then inorganic component, which covers the 50% of the bone, we have calcium and and phosphorus. And then for the cells, we have osteoprogenitor cells, osteocyte, osteoblast, and osteoclasts. So then the next one is bone cells. So let's look at this bone cells overview. So what are the bone cells? As we discussed earlier, the bone cell is made up of osteocytes, osteoclasts, osteoblasts, and bone lining cells. So these are basically 4 types of bones that are found in a cell. And these cells coordinate to maintain, to build, and reabsorb bone tissues. So if you are able to understand these different bone cells, then we'll be able to understand how they are important in maintaining, building, and reabsorbing bone tissues. So this is actually the 4 types of the bone cells. As we can see, we have osteogenic cell. So osteogenic cells, they are stem cells that are generated from mesenchymal stem cells. So as we can see, this osteogenic, they are generated from mesenchymal, they are generated from mesenchymal stem cells. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, from the basic knowledge of stem cells technology, when we say stem cells are the cells that have the ability or have the potential to generate cell types. So you see, these are actual osteogenic or osteoprogenitor cells. They are cells that are derived from the mesenchymal stem cells. So they have the limited number of cells that developed into. So these osteogenic stem cells, they have the potential to differentiate into osteocytes and osteoblasts. So as we can see, the osteogenic cells, they are, as you can see, they are stem cells developed into an osteoblast. So before they differentiate into osteoblast, they will first develop into osteocyte, and then later on, they will differentiate into osteoblast. So what is the importance of osteocyte? So the osteocyte maintains bone tissue. So they are very important in maintaining bone tissue. And then, of course, the another one is osteoblast. So osteoblast is important in forming bone tissue, as we can see. They are used in forming bone tissue. And then, of course, for the osteoclast, it is function in reabsorption, the destruction of the bone matrix. So all these is the functions of osteoclast, the reabsorption as well as the destruction of the bone matrix. So this is actually the work of the osteoclast. So these are actually the different cell types, and we are going to look at them one after the other and their importance. So their distribution and activity are vital for healthy bone function. So we are starting with osteocyte. What is osteocyte? Osteocyte are mature bone cells embedded within the matrix. So they are the matured bone cells that are embedded within the bone matrix. And as we can see, this is a bone matrix. And of course, as it is very important to understand that these osteocytes are reside in small species. As we can see, they are reside in small species. And that small spaces is called lacunae. As you can see, all these are osteocytes and they are found in small species, and in the small species that contain this osteocyte is called lacunae. And very importantly, these osteocytes maintain the bone tissue and communicate via canaliculi. So as we can see, this is canaliculi. These are the canaliculi as you can see them. All these are the canaliculi. So these osteocytes, they communicate with one another as you can see. This osteocyte is linked to this osteocyte with canaliculi. So they communicate and then maintain the bone tissues by communicating through the canaliculi. So then the next one is osteoblast. The osteoblasts are bone-forming tissues derived from osteoprogenitor cells. So as you can see, these osteoblasts, they are the cells that are used in forming the bone tissues, and they are originated from osteoprogenitor cells. So these osteoprogenitor cells, they are the cells that have the potential to differentiate into osteoblasts. So it means that you can generate or you can get osteoblasts from osteoprogenitor cells. And then, of course, these osteoblasts can further differentiate into osteocytes to maintain the bone tissue. So, and then very importantly, these osteoblasts are synthesized and secrete organic matrix of bone. So they are responsible for synthesizing and secreting the organic matrix of bone. And of course, the organic matrix is where we have collagen, non-collagenous proteins, and mucopolysaccharides. And then very importantly, these osteoblasts eventually becomes osteocytes once embedded in the matrix. So that is what happened. After these osteoblasts are generated or are produced from osteoprogenitor cells, and then these osteoblasts will now embed themselves in the matrix, and then after embedding in the matrix, then they will further eventually differentiate into osteocytes. So the next one is osteoclast. So what is osteoclast? Osteoclasts are large multinucleated cells responsible for bone reabsorption. So osteoclast is responsible for bone reabsorption, while osteocyte is responsible for maintaining bone tissue, while osteoblast is important for bone formation or bone tissue formation. And very importantly, these osteoclasts are originated from monocyte or macrophage lineage. So they are originated, meaning that they are produced from monocyte or macrophage lineage. So osteoclast activity is crucial for bone remodeling and calcium regulation. So as we can see, the major function of the osteoclast is important in bone remodeling and calcium regulation. And as you can see, this is actually the osteoclast. And as you can see that we mentioned that it is multinucleated cell. And as you can see, these are the number of nuclear. So there are many nucleus. So that is why they are called multinucleated cells, and they are important in bone remodeling and calcium regulation in the body. So the next one is bone lining cells. What is bone lining cells? The bone lining cells covers the surface of the bone in a resting stage. So in a resting stage, it is this bone lining that covers the surface of the bone, and then they help to regulate the movement of calcium and phosphates. So these cells can become active osteoblast when needed. So as you can see, this is actually the bone line. So under resting stage, this bone lining will now cover the surface of the bone tissue. So ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are going to stop, and then in the next video, we are going to look at the different types of bone. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and join my YouTube community. See you next.